Welcome everybody to Hit Rewind. This episode we're discussing the comic book events of 1992. I'm your host Michael. John's on the other side as my co-host.
I am co-host.
Yes, robotic man. So what we do is we split up. He does the Marvel events. I do the DC and independent comics events. I think you went first last. No, wait. There was no first. You're just the lead on that one. The video games. Imaginary coin in the air, and I'll go first.
All right.
You always make you go first. I'm shocked actually that this is kind of a slim pickings this year because usually we have a long list. Well, obviously let's talk about the big one. Superman dies, sort of.
Well, it was the thing where it's like, yeah, he croaked, and they really, let's be honest, death is a revolving door in comics, but at this point there were a few characters that they were dead and they were dead.
Yeah, and this is the first major, I think, DC death since Crisis, which was in 85, 86?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah, so this was a big shakeup. The only problem I have with this is that it seemed like every year after this they had to come up with some big event to kill off a major superhero. And, just wiping out the old school pretty fast. I mean, we already lost Barry Allen. And that was like the big significant one. Everybody else was kind of Supergirl maybe, but they seem like they replaced Supergirl like every other year. We lose Superman, and then of course it leads to Batman, Green Arrow, Green Lantern, and all. I think there's a period where a lot of the JSA got wiped out and replaced with new ones. I think it was 0 Hour, but I remember this just being this insane event. And you remember the black bag Supermans, right?
Oh yeah, black bags, the armband.
Yeah, my uncle, he bought, I think if I remember correctly, he bought 75 of them. He's still sitting on quite a few.
Spectator market.
Yeah, the early 90s. He was young though. He didn't understand how spectator markets work, and I think a lot of people didn't. If there's a lot of them, it's not going to be worth much. You have to get the oddball, the weird stuff. And like my old school Transformers and G.I. Joes, when they had lower print run, those were worth a lot of money.
Yeah, it's like, I think I actually have a copy of the first appearance of Miles Morales kicking around in one of my boxes.
Which at the time wasn't expected to be that big.
Yeah, unless I gave that comic book away to someone else. Yeah. Which then they might have the first appearance of Miles Morales.
So this is the first time I think where they spread a story over all the titles. I don't recall that being a thing before. Whereas continuous, because Spider-Man had that Captain Universe storyline a couple years earlier, when it was damn, why can't I think of it? Where all the villains they switch places. Acts of Vengeance, that's it. Do you remember that at all?
Yeah, I remember that one.
But that wasn't like a storyline where you had to go to each individual series. It just happened to be the Captain Universe was, he had those powers for every single title. This is one you literally had to go to Adventures of Superman, Superman Man of Steel, Superman, and Action Comics. And then it would also be in, I think, Justice League. I still have the Justice League. That's my favorite part of it, because I love that team, if you remember them at all.
Yeah, that was the Booster Gold and Blue Beetle, and Fire and Ice.
I think by then they were gone, but they had... Fire and Ice wasn't it, but I remember they had this character called Bloodwind, and it was actually Martian Manhunter. He was undercover, or he had amnesia, and he became a different character or something like that. And then I think Maxima, who was Superman, was the only worthy lover that she could possibly find in the whole galaxy.
Yeah, so she was sticking around to be a good character so that she could bang Superman.
Yeah. But that had long-term ramifications on top of that is, Booster and Blue got the snot beat out of them. And Booster briefly got armor, and Blue was in a coma for a while.
Yeah, it's like it... Well, and again, this is... Well, no, actually, no, that's the stories that follow. Never mind. I was about to say, and then that led to other things. But
it led to the big four replacement Supermen, sort of Supermen. But yeah, this was just one of these big bad. It seemed like they only created Doomsday so they could kill him. That's the same thing. It seemed like they just created Bane so he could destroy Batman. Bane stuck around. Doomsday came back a few times, but each time was weaker and weaker, and just now it just seems kind of embarrassing.
Yeah, there was nothing really good about Doomsday. Even when they did unveil the idea behind it, where it's effectively he's some Kryptonian science project. Yeah, he's basically killed. He's like thrown in this harsh environment, killed off, born, recycled into another version of it, like cloned, and then this thing starts getting all these bone spikes and shit. Which, if you look at the design at the very beginning, doesn't look like anything doesn't show anything for this character. All of a sudden, it's just, oh yeah, no, it's a weird dude with bone armor and shit.
Yeah. Well, I remember he was all wrapped up with his arm behind his back, and he had the goggles over, and the costume that was over his skin, and then slowly as it tore apart.
But it was fairly. I don't want to say form fitted, but considering how bony this guy is, it wouldn't be that smooth. I don't think.
No.
So it's basically, I don't think they had a clear idea of what Doomsday was going to look like until they actually got to the storyline and was like, oh shit, we need to figure out what this monster's going to be.
Yeah, it's the first time that I had seen comic books, like not comic book adaptations, like the way it was Batman '89, comic books mentioned in the major news.
Yeah, this was an event. I will give Superman 75 one major thing though. It is all splash pages, and it's done effectively like it's Jimmy Olsen taking those pictures.
Yeah, that was really cool.
I think that was a very clever way of doing that final issue.
Yeah, and it led to Funeral for a Friend, and then Reign of the Superman, and then Return to Superman.
Yeah, and that is really about. This is about the time I started collecting comics, so I was big on the Reign of the Superman.
Oh, okay. This is when I was starting to get out of comics.
I started getting all those issues. I have them. If I was a smart, forward-thinking person, I wouldn't have ripped out the posters in those comics and all that stuff. But I was a child. I was 11 years old, or 12 years old maybe at that point, and I wanted those damn posters because they were cool.
Yeah, for 3 years I just stopped buying comics. My uncle basically had all the comics that I was interested in, so I would just go to his house and read them for free, but I kept getting slower and slower, and started moving over to like Image. And might as well talk about that, because that's what took over comic books for so long. This is this whole new thing. The first time like an independent company had overshadowed the major companies. And I mean, I was reading a lot of them. The only one that stuck for me was Savage Dragon, which I still read to this day.
Yeah, I like Spawn. There was Wildcats. Like Spawn, of course, really was the biggest one out of all those because it got a major League Motion Picture that does not hold up in any way.
Nope. People tell me it's a good movie. I'm like, did we watch a different movie?
Or it didn't hold up when it came out.
Yeah. Oh no, I remember seeing in theaters going, oh, they didn't even fucking finish this thing. Like the special effects with Malebolgia. Come on, don't tell me you're done. That's the same special effects you looped over to Mortal Kombat Annihilation without even the same voice.
Yeah,
it's the voice that does Gadget, I think. I'll get you, Gadget.
Probably.
So we had immediate cartoons with Savage Dragon and Wildcats, I remember, on USA. And nothing else really took off. The toy line is what really carried McFarlane through the years, even past the point where his comic book was never set. I don't think that Spawn movie's ever coming. I remember Jamie Foxx and who played Hawkeye again? Damn it, Jeremy Renner. We're signed up. Yeah. And we're signed up, and it was going to be, it's going to be a $20 million Blumhouse. No, it's never coming. Shut up. But there was also, everybody that left Marvel was Whilce Portacio. He had left X Factor to create Wetworks, which I remember, wasn't that the one that was the most delayed? Like, it just took forever between issues and really pissed people off?
I believe so, yeah.
And it was just like a darker Wildcats, if I remember correctly. There was...
It's hard to remember all these ones. I I remember the artworks for a lot of them, and I remember them also in some of them, and it might be this one that you're talking about, that basically all they were just reskinned versions of X-Force.
Yeah, I mean, and people say, all these characters were like this. Spawn would look like Batman with Spider-Man. Hawk was, slap a fin on his head and he's Savage Dragon. But it's a lot about what they put into the effort of the characters. That's why people still know what Wildcats is. I think my favorite is probably Grifter. And I think he's the one that's probably taken the biggest hold over in the DC universe. Am I wrong?
Yeah, he ended up when the New 52 happened, was given his own series.
Yeah,
so.
He's just the most popular character. The rest of them are kind of generic. What's the one that Rob Liefeld did? Youngblood, right?
Yeah.
That was bullshit. I mean, his terrible. At the time, it was so dynamic, but as you get older, you're like, oh, this is terrible. And then you realize he also cannot write. But he was the one who really broke out big. He had the commercials and he had all the spin-offs. He's the first one that got removed from the company, right?
I think so. But that big part of it is, let's all be honest. Liefeld can't draw and he can't write, but he can market the hell out of himself.
Yeah,
so.
That is the big part. Plus, he was like the young, cute one of the bunch. Eric Larson isn't going to be the one that gets out in front because he's just like, oh, that's like an old dude, even though he's 30. Jim Valentino had left, I want to say, Guardians of the Galaxy to do Shadowhawk, which isn't that bad, really, but he was also more sporadic with his work because he became CFO? What do you call that? The publisher, whatever the guy who's in charge of what goes into Image. For a long time it was Valentino, then it was Eric Larson. I think it's now... who does The Walking Dead again?
What can't I was it? Kirkman.
Kirkman, I think, is the publisher now. And then we had Silvestri, who had left X-Men to do Cyberforce, which, again, in my head, it's all the same. If you mushed half of these characters together, I could not tell you who was on the fucking teams.
Yeah, well, I think that's also one of the things was they really seemed to want to create a huge shared universe right off the bat. They basically kind of did the DC EU thing, and instead of sort of building to crossing over, I think pretty early on, other characters just started showing up in everyone else's books, and it just became a huge clusterfuck of similar-looking characters in everybody's. Let's be honest, in some cases, similar looking books.
Yeah, and reprints on these are really hard because of those cross appearances. But now DC owns Wildstorm. No one gives a fuck about Rob Liefeld stuff. I think he took Supreme with him. I think it's called Maximum Press is the company. And everybody else just kind of faded away. I think, what's the one that ended up, Silvestri ended up doing Darkness and Witchblade. What was it? Was that Top Cow?
That was Top Cow, yeah.
Is that still at Image? I'm not sure. I haven't seen.
Honestly, I don't think Top Cow is a thing anymore.
Yeah, because I remember that was so huge for a while, especially because of Fathom. But a lot of these comics were plagued by inconsistencies. Just scheduling and stuff like that. You remember Cliffhanger?
No, not at all.
Cliffhanger was a spin-off of... It was a banner under Image where it was Joe Madureira had left X-Men to do Battle Chasers. I can't say this. Humberto Ramos had left Impulse to do Crimson, which was the only one that was ever on time. And J. Scott Campbell, I think, left X-Men as well to go do Danger Girl. And Danger Girl and Battle Chasers were just a quick bird out, only 10 issues, and they took for fucking ever. And only Crimson, which was always planned to be 24 issues, it finished its story and then moved on. And that's what really just damaged Image for a long time, was quality control and also timeliness. And it would just piss me off because I'd have to wait sometimes a year between issues. I think that's why Kevin Smith has to have the whole thing done now, because the 90s, early 2000s were plagued with this.
Yeah, well, also, I think part of Smith's problem was just because he still has that third part of his Batman series to finish.
Well, I don't think he finished Batman or Daredevil the Target either, which is only supposed to be 2 fucking issues, and he couldn't even finish the second one.
Yeah, I forgot that existed.
Yeah, hopefully he forgot too. I was like, oh, don't. But and the thing was is that I think when around 97, 98, when all the original guys started to defect, was they started taking fees to just distribute your comic instead of doing quality control of that too. They were just like, well, how much can you pay? Okay, well, we'll either take a percentage of the printing or you pay us a flat fee. And that really just, some real shit came out for a while there from that company.
Yeah, although now it's definitely it's one of the stronger labels.
Yeah, because once Eric Larson took over, is that he said we have to focus on, fewer titles and just make sure that we're really working with the creators to stay on time and in original stories. They moved away from the superhero stuff, which I think really helped.
Yeah, it is I think now one of the better presses for just the most interesting creator owned licenses.
Yeah, what do you think? Do you think Saga is their biggest title?
Saga is definitely their biggest title and most not just commercial but critically loved.
Yeah, because Walking Dead's been over for a little while, and that was kind of petering out anyway. I wonder what Kirkman's even writing, because Invincible, I think, is over as well. And
yeah,
so it just seems like
there are some other Walking Dead stuff. He's still
there's still spinoffs.
Okay, done. Yeah, he's not done with Walking Dead. He's just finished the main story.
I like the one that he did the last couple years called The Astounding Wolfman. It only lasted like 2 or 3 years, but it was really good. Well,
they had a really good fantasy one called Rat Queens.
I read that one. Yeah, did they do Lumberjanes?
No. Yeah. I believe Lumberjanes is Boom, I believe.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and that's the thing is, though, Image was so big that it allowed other companies to come in and try. Most of them did fail, honestly, but I'm surprised when I still see certain companies. Boom's still going strong. I did not expect that. And IDW and stuff like that. All those doors were opened by Dark Horse and Image. Yeah, Dark Horse was doing more of the spin-offs, the adaptations of movies and stuff like that, whereas Image was doing more of the superhero stuff. And then we had the oddballs. We had like Valiant, which had launched, I think, the year before, 2 years prior, and that was starting to really rev up. But Jim Shooter was removed from Valiant, I believe, when they got bought up. And then he created a company called Defiant, which really didn't do shit. The only thing I ever remember from that was Warriors of Plasm. Do you remember this title?
I don't know the title. I do remember the name Defiant. I do remember that. He
really thought it was going to be his revenge for being removed from Valiant Comics, and nothing fucking happened with it. And that's his burnout. I think it lasted maybe 2 years, 92, 93, and that was it.
Oh, Lord.
I wonder when Ultraverse came out. That had to have been really close to this. Do you remember that? Malibu Ultraverse?
Yeah, that has to be about the same time, because that was with Static and... Icon.
Yeah. Shit. Well, Marvel owns those now, and I wonder why they haven't done anything with it.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
I thought it was DC that at least owned Static.
They it says right here, Wikipedia, they currently own Marvel Comics. They had bought it. It was 93 to 97, so we get to talk about it next year. So I'll wait. I'll be patient.
Okay.
Also, over at Dark Horse, we have RoboCop versus Terminator. I still want to see this on the big screen. I don't think it's ever going to happen.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's a crossover that, just as crazy dumb as it sounds, actually works.
Yeah, this is when Dark Horse really started doing the licensing spin-offs. I feel like 92 was like the big year, because I think we also had Magnus Robot Fighter versus Predator, and then we had Superman versus Aliens, and then Batman versus Aliens or whatever. Then they all started crossing. I think it was Aliens versus Terminator versus Predator versus RoboCop or something.
Yeah, they're basically, Dark Horse ran the gamut of name it and we're going to have it fight the alien and or the Predator.
Yeah, well, also, did they have even more than that over at DC? They had Judge Dredd versus Batman, a couple of those, and so that was only like crazy spinoffs, which would eventually lead to the Amalgam. Yeah, baby. That's terrible. I know. I don't remember. If Amalgam sucks. I just remember being kind of like, "Oh, comics are dying. This is desperate."
Actually, Amalgam had a couple of decent titles.
Was it? Okay. Yeah, Frank Miller wrote this one. Did he also draw it? I can't remember.
No, it's Walt Simonson.
Well, I love Walt Simonson. He does a fantastic run of Fantastic Four. I didn't mean to Fantastic twice. Sorry, Pivot. Also, we have Next Men debuting. John Byrne has left Marvel and gone over to Dark Horse to do a big event that he himself didn't even bother to give a fuck about. He abandoned it. It was kind of like his thing, it seemed. Like he would bring up these big storylines over the Marvel Universe and just kind of abandon them when they lost his interest, like Alpha Flight and stuff like that. But Next Men is like his biggest, like, well, fuck that shit, screw you fans.
Yeah, it's like he left. He was the only good writer on She-Hulk and abandoned all that.
Yeah, Eric Larson has a joke about him for like 30 issues where they're called the Nixed Men, and it's all the characters that John Byrne just abandoned, and they call him Johnny Redbeard.
Oh, Lord.
I also forgot to mention that over in DC, Starman ended. The only reason I bring this up is forever and ever I thought it was an adaptation of the movie. And then one day I caught an issue and I was like, this is nothing like the movie. What is this? And then like they kill him off. There's another Starman. Kill him off. Another Starman. There's so many different Starmans in the fucking DC universe. It's ridiculous. And none of them seem to be connected.
Yeah, just why not? You know, we have the name. We might as well use it.
Yeah, the only Starman that I really liked was that mid-90s, the one that went to go over to JSA. You know, I can't remember what his character's name was, but he's the one with like that cosmic wand, cosmic rod or whatever, and he was like a bookstore antique dealer. That was a really good one.
Well, I'll throw one thing for DC, which was the Renee Montoya debuted.
Oh, you know what? You even told me that last time right after we got done recording. I thought I wrote that down. I apologize. Yeah, Renee Montoya, major character.
Yeah, she was created for the Batman animated series, but then they decided, oh, you know what? Let's actually just throw her into a issue of Batman. So she's debuted in Batman 475, and basically was just kind of this other cop character, just another name to fill out Jim Gordon's line of police people. And then she ended up people kind of started getting interested in her, and she became one of the leads for Gotham Central. And then what I think was really one of the best moves is that she became the Question.
Yeah, I was trying to remember. I'm sure she became the Question, but I kept sitting there going, am I wrong? Till you get to isn't that funny? Because didn't her partner become what's the ghost? The Spectre. I could have swore her partner became the Spectre.
Don't think so.
Crispus, whatever. So the last two things I'll mention over in the independent world. This isn't really comic books so much related, but they're in that vicinity. William Gaines, the creator of, well, no, I guess it is comics because he created Tales from the Crypt. EC Comics and Mad Magazine, of course, during the 50s, the whole craze, whatever, shut that down. And then he got, basically known for Mad Magazine for so long, but he passed away. And without him, horror comics I really don't think would have been as memorable. I think they would have died off because DC and Marvel kind of, they went different routes. DC kind of with the mystery stuff, and Marvel went with the superhero version of the horror world, whereas EC Comics was some dark, twisted shit.
Yeah, they were like little morality plays that usually ended with something really bad happening to our main character because our main character is usually a piece of crap.
Yeah. And of course the TV series and the movies. From all that, and of course, let's not forget the glory of Mad Magazine. Don't visit any Mad Magazines from the early 70s, by the way, because every other joke is about women's lib. Does not age well. And we also lost Peyo. Now, if you don't know Peyo, he is the creator of Smurfs. I love the Smurfs. Yes, are they comic books? Yeah. Aren't they, basically?
Yeah, they were. Or were they comic books or were they a storybook?
I don't know, but I'm just going to let it go because technically they got reprinted. The first time I ever read them was they were reprinted in DC Comics around 83 or 84, where they took the old books, whatever, and they put them into comic book format, and then they did new adaptations from that. But I got to tell you, the books that he created were some of the smartest kids' books I've ever read. They're so well drawn. They're so funny. And they're also very ahead of their time with politics and stuff like that, and really biting satire. And it got all washed away by Hanna-Barbera. Damn it.
Just turned it into a Saturday morning cartoon to hopefully sell some Smurf toys.
Yeah, I mean, they did do adaptations of some of the stories, but they took out all the wit.
Well, because American children are dumb.
Yeah.
Duh.
Well, I was a dumb kid. We're dumb because we paid $5 a piece in 1982 for those little PVC things that probably cost a quarter. You remember the little PVC toys? I think they still make them.
Oh,
I have
yeah.
a couple. Yeah, I love those fucking things.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I probably had one or two.
Yeah. All right, it's your turn. Marvel.
Well, Marvel Comics, basically, really, they had a pretty big space focus. Well, and a horror focus, but 92, like, for instance, Warlock and the Infinity Watch debuted, which was basically the series that kind of picks up where Infinity Gauntlet leaves off, where now Adam Warlock is in possession of the Gauntlet and all the Infinity Gems. And he ends up deciding to pass the five of the stones off to, the fucked up mentally Drax the Destroyer, who ends up eating...
Of course he does.
he got messed up, so he now is kind of like this childish mentality, and basically ends up eating his stone like it's a jelly bean.
Oh, dear Lord.
They give it to one to Gamora, one to Moondragon, and Pip the Troll. Yeah, and then of course the soul one stays with Warlock, and they keep the identity of the one with the sixth the secret, but guess what? It's Thanos. It doesn't stay a secret that long.
What? Why? What?
Because he was given the Reality Stone, and under the idea that basically after fucking up so badly with the Infinity Gauntlet and all that stuff, he'd be the only person who wouldn't abuse the changing reality.
Okay. I wouldn't trust that fucker with anything. Nothing.
Well, but then this series kind of gets sidetracked because shortly thereafter, the Infinity War event happens.
Yeah, well, we had Infinity Crusade somewhere in there, right?
That's the next one.
Okay.
But basically what happens is Warlock, in his infinite wisdom, decides to, around the same time that he's handing out stones like jelly beans, he decides to split himself from his good and evil selves so that he can be logical and all that stuff. So, of course, this leads to the recreation of his nemesis, the evil Magus, and his good side, the goddess. And so, Magus, being the bad guy that he is, creates clones of Marvel's superheroes and tries to take over the fucking universe.
Oh, I remember this! Holy shit, the dark versions. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and chaos happens, and it's a way too overly complex story for what they're trying to tell, and it involves all the like major super galactic beings like the Living Tribunal and Eternity and Infinity and all those characters, and basically our heroes get together, they defeat Magus, but it's all for nothing because all the stuff that he did just goes into the hands of the goddess, and then we get Infinity Crusade.
Great. Just to keep the story going, people.
Yeah, it's like they very obviously. I know they wanted to do this this big epic trilogy, and it peaked at the first part because Infinity War is not good, and Infinity Crusade just goes on for way too damn long. But we'll go and I'll bitch about that one next year.
Okay.
Now, also Cosmic Marvel kept going because Operation Galactic Storm happened.
You know, I thought I was going to like that. I was bored. Really bored.
It's a 19-part crossover. Of course you got bored because their story ran out of juice very quickly on. It's basically kind of a sequel to the Kree Skull War from the 70s, and in which the Avengers get themselves involved between a war between the Kree and the Shi'ar. Which is also kind of funny. The X-Men weren't involved in this because Professor X had been stooping the Shi'ar Queen for years. But they're busy with their own stuff. But basically, this war is starting to encroach on our solar system. They're going to like blow up our sun. So they go and send off our heroes to both homeworlds to try to stop it. But because it's 19 issues, things obviously don't go well, and they have to stop a thing called a Negabomb, and it's dumb. Effectively, the biggest things that kind of come from it is that our heroes eventually do win, but it basically kind of breaks things up between Captain America and Iron Man, because they want to kill the Kree Supreme Intelligence for basically committing genocide on itself.
Huh.
And they disagree on whether they should do that or not. And it's a storyline. I mostly know it because they had a 2-part what if story that boiled down the entire thing into like a couple of pages, and it made sense at that time. And it ended up being a much better story where, oh yeah, what if they actually lost? But what did you know about the Marvel 2099 line?
I only ever read X-Men, I think, because Ron Lim drew it, and that got my interest because he was one of my favorite artists at the time. And I remember it sucking donkey balls and never reading another issue. I might have reread. Okay, so does 2099 lead into Next, or is that separate? Avengers Next. That's Spider-Verse. That's A2. That's A2. No.
Yeah, that's A2. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I only read that. I might have read a couple of Spider-Man 2099, but I know there was like Doom, Punisher, maybe.
Yeah, the original lineup of these were Spider-Man, Doom, Punisher, and Ravage.
Ravage, fuck, that's going back. I forgot about that.
Yeah, well, considering that of the 4, Ravage was the original character of it and was written by Stan Lee for the first few issues, and it makes no sense whatsoever. Like, he's a mutant, but because he's got like bioblasts and stuff, but then he also becomes a beast guy at some point, and it's just kind of, I don't think anyone ever had a clear idea of what they were going to do with him.
Yeah, that sounds kind of schizo.
You had Doom 2099, which was basically a past future version of Doom. I'm trying to figure out the best way to say it. He's Doom.
Man, you're pulling
Victor
some Kang shit on me, aren't you?
Yeah, he's Victor Von Doom from some point in our future, but the past of 2099.
Okay.
Gets brought to the future and basically tries, has to go and reclaim Latveria, and then takes over the United States and becomes president of the U.S. Because of course he does. Punisher. Jesus Christ, the Punisher 2099.
Oh boy.
He's a cop named Jack Gallows, and it's in a series that, even considering how over the top and stupid the original Punisher series could be, this one managed to be so fucking dumb. I genuinely wonder if Pat Mills, which is one of the guys who was actually behind the creation of Judge Dredd, and Tony Skinner, if they actually hated the assignment and they're trying to do a parody of the comic, and no one actually ever told them no. Because there's like a line where he's being interviewed by like I wish I had the page up so I could actually do this right, but it's like, it's like, what's your age? 44 caliber.
That's ridiculous.
He's being asked these questions and he's saying basically just violent terms as his responses, and it's just, you kind of stare at us going, someone got paid to write this.
That's so fucking stupid.
I mean, yeah, someone got paid to write the X-Men character Ice Cream, who is a guy who can transform into flavors of ice cream.
No.
Yes,
no.
That is someone got paid to write that. Wow. And yet that is not as stupid as Jack Gallows. Now, the only one of these books that actually had legs and was any good, which seems to be a weird reoccurring theme whenever Marvel starts up a new universe, is Spider-Man 2099. Spider-Man always seems to be the one that people like. And, it's basically this guy, Miguel O'Hara, who, after a lab accident, ends up getting his genetic code rewritten to be 50% spider DNA, which doesn't make any sense.
No, because that's disgusting.
Weird.
Yeah, he just looks like a freak.
Yeah, we gets organic web shooters. He gets fangs and talons, and he gets a really rad fucking suit. And he's going to be voiced by Oscar Isaacs in the next Spider-Man animated film. So he's still around.
Okay.
But basically, later on, you mentioned there was X-Men, there was a Hulk book, there was a Ghost Rider one, where Ghost Rider was a fucking robot. Like, seriously, it was an interesting idea, but they never really... I don't think anyone really gelled together and created the best concept of
what they do this almost every time. I mean, the fucking New Universe was a disaster, and the only thing I think they ever got right with the spin-offs was Ultimate.
Yeah, but I think at that point they kind of just finally got around to the idea that, hey, maybe we should have some sort of conceptual unity in our universe.
Yeah. But
next up is the Rise of the Midnight Suns, which was a crossover / introduction for their horror line, The Midnight Suns. Basically, this was Ghost Rider, a book called The Spirits of Vengeance, which was kind of a Ghost Rider Johnny Blaze team up.
Yeah, when Johnny Blaze had long hair, the glasses, and a shotgun that eventually
shot Hellfire. Yeah.
Yeah, but I remember he looked a lot like Nomad, and I was like, because if you remember, Nomad got all tough. He had a baby and a backpack and a shotgun.
Yeah, and he was shooting up all those drug dealers. Yeah. Let's see, Morbius, the Night Stalkers, and Darkhold, pages from the Book of Sins,
which is in Doctor Strange, correct?
Yeah, the Darkhold itself is now kind of a big deal because it crossed over a few things. Because in S.H.I.E.L.D., it was in Agent Carter, and yeah, then it found its way into the WandaVision and Doctor Strange movie. But basically, the crossover itself was in which the demon queen Lilith is trying to get resurrected, and shit goes bad. So Ghost Rider needs to kind of assemble a bunch of people to help him take it out. And amongst this time, again, the Darkhold itself is kind of being let loose on the world, and it's creating monsters and, vampires, because, the Night Stalkers and Morbius.
Yeah.
So it's a decent enough crossover. I think it's only 6 parts, so it's fairly self-contained. But of this whole thing, it did start one of the series that I really liked, which was Darkhold. Because the series was basically something that you would have gotten at this time with Vertigo. It's kind of like a mix of, say, Constantine, Swamp Thing, and Sandman.
Yeah. Well, it's when Marvel started dipping into all the series that kind of faded away by the early 80s. Bringing back Ghost Rider, Deathlock, Morbius. I'm trying to think of some other ones. But I feel like that was when they're like, let's go to the back catalog and revive and see what will stick. And hardly any of it really stuck. That's the sad part.
Yeah, in the case of this one, this series didn't last very long, which is kind of a shame. But it has popped up again and again every now and then. And honestly, they just in the last couple of years, they had a series that is effectively kind of a dark what if. Self-contained, where it's like, oh, here's a beginning and end, and here's 5 issues in between that are going to featuring each of the character that has to do with it. But it's now, okay, well, what would a Darkholded version of Spider-Man be? What would Blade be like if he was under the influence of the Darkhold and stuff like that? So, kind of interesting ideas where it's like, oh, okay, well, Darkhold Iron Man is basically a Frankenstein's monster, where the man has become the machine and is trying to replace the world by putting everybody in these machines and shit. It's like, okay, that's an interesting idea. Okay, here's this and that. I would love to see someone do a series like that where it's just
Yeah.
hey,
Well, you mean comic series or TV series?
comic series.
I was gonna say because TV series, Marvel's really starting to get to the bottom. They really don't have much else they can do except for like the darker, horror stuff. And for some reason, Submariner, they were too late on that one. They took forever to get that going, and now because Aquaman basically stole its thunder, so I don't know what they're gonna do.
Yeah. Well, here let me do some random ones before we get to the final event.
Okay.
Iron Man 282 had the debut of James Rhodes as War Machine.
Whoa.
Now this one is more because this had something to do with a horny 11-year-old developing. Fantastic Four 369 is an Infinity War tie-in, and it's the return of Dominatrix Sue Richards.
Oh, okay.
You know what? Hold on a second. I do have a picture of this. I'm going to send it to you, and tell me what you think of this cover. And my God, where's my damn thing? It's one of those things where you go like, good Lord.
Yeah, well, this is when horniness was really prevailing over comics, because you remember when we started getting like the X-Men swimsuit specials, or the Marvel swimsuit specials, period. And all of a sudden, everybody's boobs got like 6 times bigger than they were before, and just trying to. Well, I think we're like just a year away from Lady Death, which is like the ultimate. Oh wow, that's excessive.
Yeah, damn it, hold on.
It's okay. You continue while you're doing that.
Yeah. Anyway, it's not a great issue. It is an Infinity War tie-in. It basically just goes and has her facing off against her Malice persona in like the astral plane or whatever. And
yep, I remember this. Holy crap, that is some fucking.
Yeah, that's one of those things where you start kind of developing certain appreciations for some sorts of aesthetics.
Huh.
But yeah, I just had to mention that because Jesus Christ.
Wow. You just keep going while I look at this.
Well,
no, we're good. I'm not really into that stuff.
Here's the counter programming to that. Captain America issues 402 to 407.
Was that Cap Wolf?
That is fucking Cap Wolf.
Cap Wolf, which just came back recently. Did you know that? I just read it. And when Falcon becomes Captain America, there's a whole issue. Or no, there's a whole arc where he gets genetically altered back into Cap Wolf. And everybody makes fun of him the whole fucking time. And he's in complete control, basically, but he just is a wolf. So he's just like eating breakfast, watching TV. He's like, one of these damn days this thing's going to wear off. So stupid.
Well, it's like, it's a storyline. And I did actually read this in preparation for it. It's as dumb as it sounds. But at least I'll give it credit. It does actually acknowledge that Wolfsbane and Feral do actually exist outside of the X-Books. Now, this was also the 30th anniversary of Spider-Man. And so aside from, we actually got the debut of Carnage as the symbiote villain. There was a few of these issues of Spider-Man, on all 4 of his titles, had a holographic cover, and they were all neat looking and stuff.
The fucking metal suit was coming, wasn't it?
Eventually, yeah.
Yeah, it's Sins of the Past, I think, is the storyline.
But we got Amazing Spider-Man 365 had the return of Peter Parker's long-thought dead parents.
Yeah, I had tapped out right before this because I know this is sacrilege, I hate Mark Bagley's work. His art, to me, took over for so long in Marvel, and I just think it's ugly.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no problem with it.
That's it. I'm done. I'm sorry.
Okay. No worries. But yeah, basically this was ultimately bullshit plot from the Chameleon and Harry Osborn to fuck with Peter Parker.
Yeah, figures.
But and they're just robots and shit. But it's like the idea that all of a sudden these dead characters popped up and were older. Just kind of like, well, shit. But let's see.
Are we just a step away from the clone Gwens?
We are very close to Clone Saga.
Yeah, the whole thing just pissed me off. That's another reason why I just tapped out of Spider-Man.
We got about another 2 years or so.
Okay.
Let's see. We got the final. Okay, the final thing I think we'll do is Executioner's song, and it's not Executioner. I mean X-Cutioner's song.
I think is this one when Cameron Hodge became like some sort of weird cyborg freak show?
No.
What is that?
That was.
Was that Extinction Agenda? No.
That was Extinction Agenda.
That was some of the worst quality in art at that point that I was so disgusted. But I'm pretty sure I read Executioner's song. Is that Strife?
That is the Cable and Strife one. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, this was supposed to be the crossover thing that was going to address who Cable was and what his relationship to Strife was. But instead, they didn't do that. That Professor X is almost assassinated, and he's given a strain of the technomechanic virus. But holy shit, it was Cable who shot him. And Apocalypse's 4 horsemen attack the X-Men, and they end up getting Jean Grey and Cyclops are kidnapped. And yes, this is exactly what it was like reading the comic.
It was pretty exhausting. This is the only Marvel title I held on to for a little bit longer. But I did feel like there was some exhaustion with the craziness and the massive amount of, crossover mega events.
Yeah, it's like they were, Cyclops and Jean Grey are given a Mr. Sinister who gives them to Strife. And basically, we're supposed to learn that Cable is Nathaniel Summers, the child of Cyclops and Madeline Pryor, who was taken to the future and all that stuff. And then Strife was his clone. Or it might have been the other way around, but who the hell knows? All we know is we get some weird shit with Strife berating Scott and Jean for being shitty parents. And he force feeds them like baby food. There's only a couple things that good come of it. It has the greatest Cable line ever, where he's getting ready to suit up and fight Strife, and he says, "It's time to take him down once and for all, man to man, and quite literally face to face." Because he's got the.
Is Claremont still writing this bullshit?
No.
Okay, he's gone. All right.
Unfortunately, it's Fabian Nicieza.
That's what I was wondering. Okay, I was about to ask you that.
And I like Nicieza's writing, but Jesus Christ, it's fucking horrible in this one.
Yeah.
But basically, he's got the most 90s thing where he's covered head to toe in guns and bullets and grenades. It's fucking horrible. But okay, they do kill off Cable and Strife in this, but of course it's comics, they return. But when Cable comes back, this is actually where the Cable being an actual interesting character begins.
Oh, okay. So Rob Liefeld's taint is all over, or no longer all over it. So
yeah, they finally everything that they needed to do with Cable as being grumpy old man who shouts at clouds is over with this crossover. And then the only other good thing that came of it is the seeds are planted for the Legacy virus. Okay. It has no name yet. It's just like a container sitting on Mr. Sinister's desk at the moment. But it'll end up becoming this huge, long-running allegory for the AIDS epidemic. And it also ends up, same thing, ending up with giving some of the most heartbreaking moments out of all the X-Men comics ever.
That is?
Oh, the death of Illyana.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, that is a sad comic. You just get your heart ripped out, and then you're just staring at it, and then they go and step on it, and then really ruin the moment just an issue later with Magneto blowing up their funeral, blowing the funeral for the kid.
Jeez. Which is weird, because Magneto took care of her.
Yeah, well, but that's also because they made Magneto a mustache-twirling villain again.
Yeah, right.
But that is about it for my Marvel side.
Okay, well, that is it with this episode. John, where can we catch you?
I am on Twitter under musician MYUZISHION.
I am like a recovering addict, a junkie of sorts with Twitter, so I may or may not be on there. I got mad again last night, and I actually deactivated my account, only to wake up this morning and reactivate it. I need... My name is Michael, and I am a Twitteraholic.
Hi, Michael.
I told somebody that they're probably buying stolen goods, and they're like, "What are you, a cop?" And then they all just started mocking me, and I was like, okay, well, whatever. I was just, okay, you can steal all the shit, whatever. Buy stolen goods, I don't care. It's not my ass. Whatever. Bye. Yeah, so hit rewind somewhere. Just go look for it. You'll find it. That is it. Have a good night.
Later.